Hey, welcome to my Warframes Where They Are Now series, a little series I've had brewing in the back of my mind since the early days of Warframe, quote unquote. I'm going to put this little intro at the beginning of every video in this series. If you've heard this once or more, feel free to skip it. This is just my opinion and is not guaranteed to be fact. Remember, with Warframe, everyone plays at least a little different from each other. That's why there's 52 frames as of making this intro, of course. That being said, I do plan on being as objective as I can with this series. But bias will always be a potential problem, and will definitely shine through in certain episodes, if not all. Now, that being said, I hope you enjoy the series. June 14th, 2024. Today we're talking about the indestructible vampire. The Eidolon. Revenant. Base stats on a level 30 Revenant Prime R. 370 health, 925 shields, 135 armor, 225 energy, and 1.1 sprint speed. He has a crazy amount of shields. I never realized that. Revenant's passive is, whenever his shields go, he hits the enemies within 7.5 meters of him with a shockwave that does 100 damage and knocks him over. I'll be honest, I had no idea that this was a thing, although I think that's exclusively because of his second ability, which we'll get into when we get there. His first ability is Enthrall. You pick an enemy and make it yours. It fights for you and it can enthrall other enemies for you, which is very nice. You have a cap of 7, which kind of sucks. I will say I wouldn't mind it so much if it was affected by ability strength or hell range or something. I will say strength makes the most sense to me, but something. Mainly because of the fact that once you have the 7, you can't enthrall others until they die. Yes, you can kill them and so can your allies, which does help cull the old ones, and I will say oftentimes your allies will kill them even when you're trying to keep the 7, because they don't realize. Decent amount of duration on it, and the nice thing too is when they do die, they create a pillar of energy that does damage to things that get too close to it, as well as when you hit it with your 4th ability, which we'll get into later. It actually detonates that pillar, which does some knockdown damage. Not a terrific amount of damage, but it does some damage and it knocks them over. This ability also has a augment, that being Thrall Pact. I use this one myself, I like it a lot. And that is, it increases the damage of your primary per thrall you have. It has 25% to start with, but it is actually affected by ability strength. Mine actually sits at about 60%, so it actually does increase it quite a lot. I like to use this when I'm, level farming a weapon. Like if I have a build in mind and I have to go through the process of putting like 5 forma on it. We've all been there. His second ability is one I feel most people know him for, that being Mesmer Skin. Now the way this thing works is when you activate it, you get a number of charges. Base value at level 30 being 6, and it is in fact affected by ability strength mods. Whenever you're hit, instead of taking damage, you instead lose a charge, go invulnerable for about like a half a second, and then stun the enemy for a duration, base duration being 5 seconds, and that is also affected by ability duration mods. And this ability is recastable, which means that you can just like not run out of charges as long as you keep up with it. Granted, you are vulnerable while you're recasting it, for the like second and a half that you're casting it. Which means that not only can you not die as long as you're keeping this ability up, you also cannot take damage. It's kind of crazy to think about. There are means that you can take damage while it's active. I'm not entirely sure what all the vectors are. I actually found one while I was getting footage for this video during Steel Path. Apparently Mania can go through it. But obviously you gotta worry about like nullifiers and shit like that, and those guys on the roller skates I'm forgetting the name of. Anyways, it does have an augment, that being Mesmer Shield, and the way that works is Revenant receives plus 50% Mesmer Skin strength, and allies within affinity range are granted a maximum of 5 charges. Unfortunately, those 5 charges are not affected by ability strength. I kinda wish they were, but I also completely understand why they're not. Because that's kinda nuts. When they announced that augment, I kinda lost my mind a bit, because that's fucking crazy. Reminds me of the Nezha builds with a similar augment. His third ability is Reeve. You dash through enemies as a wall of sentient energy, whatever that means, and you leech shields and health from any encountered. It's also enhanced for thralls, so use at your own peril, I suppose. Jokes aside, this actually does do a pretty substantial amount of lifesteal. 40% health drain at a base value, and it is actually affected by ability strength, so bear that in mind. I personally have this helmet off because with the second ability I don't exactly need this other than as a movement tool, but it's Warframe. Jokes aside, I replaced it with some armor strip. We'll get into that with my build section, but I personally don't use this. But it does have an augment, and I haven't even looked at it yet, so let's see what that does. The augment being Blinding Reeve. Reeve gains an additional 40% range, and enemies are blinded by its fog for 10 seconds. That doesn't seem too bad, to be honest. I'm gonna test that real quick. Alright, I got back from my testing. It actually works pretty good. The blind duration is actually affected by ability duration mods, so use that knowledge for what you will. I may actually make a secondary build with this, just to, play around with it, see what I can do with it. It also opens enemies up to finishers, which is the main reason why I'm kind of looking into that. I will say it would be really good for Nightwave, if nothing else. But I honestly think it has potential. His fourth ability is Dance Macabre. And, how do I begin to describe this? Well, you know what? It's this. Alright, now that I'm done joking around, as you can see, you kind of become a sort of laser Beyblade. These lasers actually do a pretty substantial amount of damage. They rip through enemies pretty quick. Even in my testing in the simulacrum, I can rip through the level 180 heavy gunners pretty damn fast. Granted, I do have to use charge mode to go through them fast, but still, that's kind of nuts to think about, with it being a big AoE like this. I will say, the damage does kind of fall off the further out it goes, so be wary of that. And it also eats energy like nobody's business, so also be wary of that. I will say if you plan on making a build specifically around Dance Macabre, you're probably going to want to go high efficiency, because the base value of energy per second it takes from you is 20. But the trade-off is the pretty significant amount of damage it does. No augments for this thing yet. I'm kind of not sure what you'd do with this, considering it already augments its damage for enemy defenses. Honestly, if I had a guess, maybe have it apply statuses or something? I don't know. Either it could be similar to Mirage's augment for her disco ball thing. Have it float over your head. That could be cool. As for my build, I actually have a full set of Archon shards on him. High duration and high strength, as you can see. I have Arcane Energize and augmented on him. As well as 2 augments, which is kind of unheard of with my builds. But Throw Pact and Mesmer Shield. I figure since I don't need the adaptation or steel fiber, fuck it, I might as well use it for that. I have Vitality on him, though I've been debating removing it, because, well, he's Revenant, but I do like having the fallback in case I run into an Nullifier or something. As for my Archon shards, I have 2 for armor, 2 for ability strength, and 1 for duration. So how's Revenant fare for Deviri? Well, he actually does quite well with Steel Path Deviri in particular. With him having the invincibility stacks, he doesn't really get outscaled by the enemies too quickly, if at all. And with me having Enthrall Pact on mine in particular, it does help with the weaker primaries if you get a weaker primary. Granted, doesn't help you if you have a shit secondary or shit melee, but at least, at least one of the guns are going to be at least usable. There's a lot of at leasts. But, yeah, I don't mind getting him too much. He's never my first pick. Well, I shouldn't say never. There's been a couple situations where it's like, okay, I guess I'm going Revenant. But, I don't mind getting him too much. Revenant is a frame that, before the Prime, I absolutely hated, and to be honest, I don't remember why. I genuinely wish I did for the sake of the video. I would love to, if nothing else, have that bit of history somewhere, but I genuinely don't remember. I do like the Prime. Granted, he's not a favorite of mine. I'd actually put him towards the middle of the roster for me. but he's not a frame I'm ever upset to play. He's also never a frame I'm excited to play either. But objectively speaking, he's pretty damn solid. With him having the tank capabilities that he does, as well as having the laser ballet and the thralls, he's actually quite nice. Either way, thank you all for watching, and let's go ahead and spin that wheel. And as always, have a good one.